And the first person we've got today is Kerrie Egan. Kerrie is the head of QA at Made to Engage, and she's going to be chatting to us about barriers to automation. So please give her a big welcome hand. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Kerrie Egan, and I'm here to talk to you today about the barriers to test automation and hopefully how to overcome them. So I'll start with a bit of background on myself. I've worked in the IT industry for about 14 years now. I started out working in IT support for a local retail supplier, but quickly realised this wasn't for me. Then I joined Kainos as a graduate tester, and I worked my way through various QA roles for about 11 years within Kainos, until last year, until I moved to Made to Engage, where I'm now the head of QA. When I started out in testing, everything was manual. I'd done a computer science degree, but coding didn't come naturally. But I enjoyed it, and I understood it. I was meticulous with details, so testing suited me down to the ground. In 2013, I returned from maternity leave, having had my third child, and I was asked to move into an automation role, and I was terrified. I had never done anything like that before. To come back from maternity leave, it's very, very difficult anyway. Quite often you have to get used to a new team, a new project. You don't even know where you're supposed to be sitting. To come back and have to pick up a new skill set was so much more daunting. Also, in recent years, I've interviewed quite a number of manual testers. And something that I hear time and time again is that they would like to get into automation, but they don't know how, or they're afraid that they won't be able to do it. So this talk today aims to try and break down some of those barriers. So I would say then that the first barrier to automation is fear. We all work in a really fast-paced industry, and we have to update our skills regularly. But this constantly changing environment can sometimes make us feel that we're not good enough, or not clever enough, because there's always something else to learn. And our human nature is such that we think we're the only ones that feel this way, and that everybody else is so much better. This is obviously not true, but it's how you feel. And I'm sure it's a familiar feeling to a lot of people within the room. There's a psychological process to overcoming fear, and the first part of that is to be aware of it. Well, I was definitely aware of it. The next part then is to try and pinpoint what it is you're actually afraid of. People working in IT are generally a conscientious group, and people with this sort of nature you'll often find that they have a massive fear of failure. For years, testers have been running manual tests and have been very much in their comfort zone. And people like their comfort zone. You feel capable and qualified to do your job, and to move away from that is very scary. So how do we overcome that? I was lucky. I worked in a really supportive company that actively sought to encourage collaboration and to take away the fear of making of failing. They actually had a Slack channel that was even devoted to making mistakes. So if you made a mistake, you added it to the Slack channel and you said what you learned from it. And this was good for a number of reasons. Other people got to learn from your mistakes, but other people also got to see that everybody made mistakes. We're human and we do it, and that's okay. So I was in an environment where I was really comfortable to pick up a new skill because it was okay to make that mistake, and that was really important. So then the next step was, well, how do you actually start automating? What do you do? So I went into a multidisciplinary team of really highly skilled, really highly enthusiastic people, and we were working on quite a complex problem. There was another 2 testers on the team, one like myself who was just starting out in automation, and another one who had years of experience. And I explained my fears to them, and they instantly put me at ease. I spoke to my colleague Lisa. She had worked in automation for a long time, and she said not to worry, and we started out pair programming. I'm not going to say it was easy at the start, but having someone there to mentor you through the really difficult bits was a massive help. And once the code was broken down and it was explained, I started to realise that it wasn't actually as hard as what I'd built it up in my head. And then when we started to move on and broke it down into smaller parts, I was then able to build on those. It's like any problem. Once you break it down to bits that you can understand, then you can build up from that. And once the framework and how everything was hung together was explained to me, I then had enough knowledge and was empowered to be able to go off and teach myself, but with that safety net of having that supportive team around me. Picking up something new and out of your comfort zone is scary, but we should reflect on the fact that we've been doing this pretty much our whole lives. Throughout your education, be that school, university, whatever course you've done, you've been learning something new every day and you've been challenged to do that and you've done it. When you are in your early career, you are challenged as you hone your skills, but it does come to a point where you get comfortable and you're not challenged so much anymore. And I would say having that automation challenge set to me was probably one of the best things that's happened to me, because it sparked that joy of learning in my brain again. And I realised I actually do enjoy learning new things. You forget that sometimes. And it started me along a path of picking up other skills, not just in my job, but outside of my life, and saying yes to things that I probably wouldn't have said yes to before. And before you know it, you could be delivering a talk and overcoming another fear, the Women Tech Makers event. So the next barrier that I often hear, and this comes a lot from testers, is, but I don't like coding. So this is a tricky one, because you need to get to the bottom of why. And I think it comes back to that first point. It's lack of knowledge in the area and fear. I think a lot of people think once they've done coding in school, or in university, that's the only way it's done. There's a whole lot of different areas to it. And my argument here is, how can you dislike something that you haven't actually tried yet? When I was in uni, we did get the opportunity to do coding, but we didn't do any test automation. To use Selenium WebDriver as an example, it didn't even exist when I was in university, so I didn't know anything about it. So how can you say you don't like it? From my own personal experience, having tried automation, I now love it. It brings a more interesting facet to my day-to-day work. It gets rid of those arduous and, quite honestly, mind-numbingly boring manual tasks, and leaves me time for pretty more stimulating work. And now I actually enjoy writing the code as well. It's another interesting part to my day. I don't worry that I'm going to miss an obvious regression issue because my mind has wandered or I've got tired. And automation code is very different from writing application code. So if you've experience in writing application code and maybe that's what's put you off, it's completely different. And unlike when I was in university, there's a plethora of online resources devoted to it. So if you get stuck with something, there's always an answer out there. The next barrier that I see, and probably the most difficult to overcome, is getting the buy-in from your business. A lot of people work in businesses that are really busy, and getting time and budget to scale up can be really, really difficult. So you need to sell this to your organisation. And you need to sell it at different levels to different people within your organisation. So if we start with your leadership team, you need to sell the benefits of automation to your leadership team. When we think of benefits of automation, we think of, that it's more time efficient to run masses of regression scripts, or, batch and tests for nightly execution, etc., etc. But when you're selling to your leadership team, it's likely going to come down to costs. And there's many online resources and reviews available on this topic. But at a very, very high level, if you view every automation test that you write as a future regression test, that cost that you incur at the start of your project will be mitigated by being able to run these tests time and time again for months or years, however long your project is, with only maintenance costs to cover. And this frees up time for your testers to focus on other types of testing, like, for example, exploratory testing, that many would argue would actually find it's more valuable and finds more bugs than maybe sticking to strict test scripts. And you may also need to convince your team around you. So we've talked about leadership team, but what about your devs and your fellow testers around you? You may need to convince them that this is a good idea. And this feeds back again to moving out of your comfort zone. You might find that some of your team are reluctant to change. They like how things are done now, and they don't want to do this. So you need to sell the benefits of automation to them. How's it going to change their lives? Maybe you could start small. You need to start small and try and build it up for them. There's plenty of record and playback automation tools that are available now that don't really require any automation knowledge. And maybe you could record some of the more mundane tasks for them and show them how those can be taken off their plate, leaving them time for more stimulating work. Equally, if you can show them how to automate, if you have a little bit of expertise in the area and you show them how to do it, that might spark an interest that they didn't even realise they had before. If you're struggling with understanding how to start with the code, why not talk to the devs in your team? They do it day in, day out. I find over the last few years that working very closely with developers has been brilliant, because when I get stuck with something, they're always more than willing to help. And I find that developers tend to be really on board with test automation as well. So why not work together? Start pair programming until you feel comfortable enough to do it yourself. If you've tried all of the above and you're still not getting that buy-in that you need from your business. Maybe you've outgrown your role. Maybe it's time that you need to carve yourself a new role. This is a particularly hard step to take, but it can be very rewarding. Looking at the job market at the minute, most QA jobs require some level of automation experience. There's nothing to stop you to get this in your own time. There's so many online courses and online resources devoted to it. You just need to focus on what it is that you actually want to learn and do it. Another great way of getting experience, and indeed meeting potential employers who share your interest in automation, is to attend and get involved in meetups. We're really, really lucky in Northern Ireland. We have a thriving IT community, and they organise regular meetups, and these are sponsored by local companies, so they're a fantastic resource, and we should make use of them. So to sum up, I'd like to sum up by saying, don't let your fear hold you back from learning something new. We're lucky to work in an industry that really focuses on collaboration and teamwork. You'll always have someone who can help you, and then you can be that person who helps the next person. Don't let your imagined knowledge of something hold you back either. It's probably not as hard as what you think it's going to be. Set yourself a challenge, try and achieve it, because that sense, when you do achievement, that sense of achievement will be more than worth it. Talk to your organisation about what you want and have a plan in place for how this is achievable, and show them the evidence of the benefits. You'll probably find that this is on their radar too, but they just needed somebody who could champion it. Maybe you could be that champion. And finally, I'd like to take the time to say thank you for listening to the talk.